To another episode of Forever Bristol City podcast. We've got our serious faces on today because we're not a bunch of happy bunnies. The final score at Ashton Gate, it finished City 0, West Brom 1. The Baggies' first away win in 6 months. And quite honestly, I thought they were crap and you could see why they hadn't been getting away from home. But we were worst. 1 win in 8. 27 games, 29 points since that bright start to the season. It's all gone tits up, and that's an understatement. I'm joined today by Richard Angel, Juan Pablo Angel. I don't think he's related to the former Villa player. Paul Hunt and Dave Tovey, all three guys and others did a very nice birthday compilation of video meetings for my birthday, which was on Tuesday, ripe old age at 70. But I was not going to be elated on what was the 59th anniversary, just about going to take a few days of my association with this wonderful football club. As we always do, give me your immediate thoughts on the final whistle. You first, Dave Tubby.
Summer festival, isn't it? I thought I'd put my sunglasses, my hat on, and just think about summer in homage to the players. I have to say, it's the first time I've looked down this season, and there are reasons behind that. It shows in the mentality, it shows in the studs that you wear, it shows in how often you're second to the second balls. It definitely shows in having free headers in your own box. Too many were dialing it in yesterday. Too many were quite literally on the beach. And I don't know who the core leadership team is, but that happened on their watch. That happened on Struber's watch yesterday. We're not talking about application. We're not talking about quality. We're talking about the severe basics. And they failed in that yesterday. And 2 weeks is a long time in football. And they've got 2 weeks to put it right.
Okay, Paul, what were your thoughts? From your position in the lower Lansdowne, which is a lot closer to me than I thought it was all these years.
Well, I had hoped after the way the Borough game ended that would give us a bit of impetus yesterday to really make something of it, even though the playoffs is out of reach. But it was just like that 30 seconds at the end of Borough was a blip, and it was normal service resumed at home, just getting turned over, not interested. It's just a perfect storm that's come down from the top of absolute mess, and I think the players, they just lost interest, some of them, didn't they? Like Adam Randall, he still looked up for it and interested, like he said in his interview after Borough, but a few of the others just...
All right, well, we've got to pick...
demoralised.
We're going to do a player-by-player analysis, I've decided today. Richard, what were your thoughts? It was a bright, sunny day off the pitch, but on it, there's dark clouds growing by the match, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Rich.
I think we're looking at a situation. Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
I think we're in a situation where we could be looking at our worst points total since 21-22 season, when we finished on 55. We're currently on 51. When I look at it, I don't think we're going to be getting any more than... I'll think about how many points we're likely to get, but I'm just not feeling confident. Mathematically, and I don't see it, we could actually go down, okay? Realistically, that won't happen. And thank God Sheffield Wednesday have been appalling. And thank God we've got Oxford, Leicester, Portsmouth and West Brom having a really bad time. I think Charlton away and Sheffield United home are critical games for us. We've got to get a point from Charlton away, but this is not a good place. So if you were coming here today for therapy, everyone, and a feel-good factor, may not be the forum for you.
Not going to happen. I have to say, get on my hobby horse. That away end, 3,000 West Brom fans. You know, I went with a Baggies fan yesterday. I took him to watch the game, and he thought they were crap. But he agreed we were worse. But that's got to change sometime soon, because, you know, it does give those teams, away teams, a small advantage, and we know at this level it is all about fine margins. Dave, the starting lineup, let's get back into that. What were your thoughts when you saw it? I mean, somebody's queried Knight playing in the middle of a three rather than Eala, but is he I think Struber's got it wrong playing McCrory out of position, and McCrory was shocking in the first half. Playing McCrory out of position when you've got Campring on the bench.
The question is why? Why is it with Campring that he's not trusted to play game after game in that position? I think there's an element of a lack of trust there about a player breaking down. What I would say on McCrory is that he is supposed to be one of the leaders. He's supposed to be one of the heartbeat players of the side. He was far from that yesterday. You think about how often, what do you associate with McCrory, whether it was left or right? You know, I remember last season talking about how McCrory can't play on the left-hand side. And I had to get to the end of the season and say, okay, I got it wrong. Actually, he's quite effective on the left-hand side. What happened to that player? That's the issue. Yesterday, he did not play like Ross McCrory. There was no drive in his play. He didn't even have the right studs on. He played yesterday like a player that didn't actually want to be here. And I don't really know how he stayed on at half-time, to be honest.
Paul, we talk about, I want to analyse every individual player's performance, but before we come back to McCrory, or rather stick with McCrory on this, he played like a player who looks like he don't want to be here. Strong talk linking him with a return north of the border. And he's not going to get in the Scotland World Cup squad playing out of position. But what did you think with the overall team lineup with Jess Rees up top and Morsey and Randall midfield combo?
Well, I think Rees and Armstrong last week at Borough was absolutely nothing happened there. So I can totally see why he changed that. I think it's very difficult because he's so limited in choices. The back five worked great. Well, great. The back five was good last week because Knight is probably the one and only real leader in there, and he was marshalling them. But it was a defensive back five last week at Borough. It was sitting deep, soaking up the pressure. Whereas when we're at home against a relegation team like West Brom, we need to come out more. So he was sort of damned if you do and damned if you don't. But it's like, what other choices did he have, really, regarding that? So I didn't fall out too much with it. I was glad Armstrong didn't start. Every time he comes on the pitch, it's like we lose a player, I think. So,
yeah. Richard,
I couldn't fall out too much.
Richard, Paul makes a good point there. You know, at Middlesbrough played well because we were very compact. You know, we were protecting, mothering the ball, I think Gary Johnson used to call it. And it was a good defensive performance last week. Could he have done things any differently from the starting lineup in your view, Richard?
Well, we went with the 3-4-2-1 formation. We had Rees up front on his own. For me, we didn't show the technical and tactical nous. West Brom knew how we were going to line up. They knew that Knight would be playing centre half. So what did they do? West Brom, that before yesterday, the previous 5 games, they had 4 points, I think. But they came in with Maja and Hegbu up front. They were going to be physical. They dominate our defence. They had a plan. They'd worked on it. Whereas it felt like a little bit like the Lee Johnson days of old with the tombola. Let's just see what we've got available. Let's chuck them out on the pitch and have a go. The one thing that I did feel was interesting was on the bench. I don't know whether you spotted it. The 17-year-old lad, Louis Derrick. I don't know a lot about him. I've had to do a little bit of Googling this morning. Midfielder, technical, very highly rated. I'm not going to load a Max Doman Arsenal comparison, but if we can get ourselves to a point where we are mathematically safe, what I would like to see Struber doing is probably, can we get rid of the 210s? Can we start to kind of have a structure? I just feel that, you know, we're flip-flopping time. And that continuity that does confidence isn't there at the moment.
Mm.
The issue is, do you want a manager to have an identity or not? Because if you have someone that sets up in a certain way of playing, and then you say he hasn't got a plan B, but he's showing you game after game, playing one up front, playing two up front. We've played four sometimes, we've played five sometimes. Maybe the issue is just simply the players available. I'm not sure. I'm not sure at the moment that we've got the right players available to do anything that Struble wants to do necessarily, and that comes down to the heart of the issue. But yesterday was worse because I didn't see the minimum standard, and that's
Yeah.
what really frustrates me. Because it doesn't matter if you play 1-10, 2-10s, two up front, because we played two up front in the second half yesterday. What did it really change? The one player that comes out with credit is Max Bird, because he showed you the minimum standard. If you don't get the minimum standard, you can play players wherever you want on a football pitch. You will lose.
Let's do it now. Let's get into the player-by-player analysis before we talk about the match action, which there wasn't a great deal. I'll sit with you, Dave. I mean, Vitek, he did his job. I mean, he did one poor pass out from the back late on, but he made up for it with a save. But he did okay. He can't be faulted for the goal, can he?
No, look, he was penned in. It was very difficult for him to get out. What's happening at the moment, it's not on him. We can talk about his certain parts of his distribution. There was one moment in the second half where it was passed back to him and then he kicked it out long, the one that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But the issues are not him. He's
No.
one of the bright stars at the moment.
He is. Paul, you'd agree with that? Vitek can't be faulted for the goal, pretty much, other than that pass out from the back, which he redeems himself with a save. We want him here next season, don't we?
Oh, definitely. He's back on form again after his dip that he had, I think. So yeah, he is, as Dave said, great.
Richard, you concur with that view as well on Vitek, yeah?
Absolutely. I mean, West Brom on the corners, they were playing them high and long to the back post. I mean, the specific goal, I think is it Callum Stiles took the corner.
Yeah.
And the header from George Campbell was just down. It was a goal because Knight was behind the goal line when it hit his chest and bounced back out.
Yeah.
But Vitek, no, he's not guilty for that one.
All right. Dave, if we look at the back three as a unit yesterday, so individually and as a unit, Eala, Knight taking one for the team by being the captain and playing out of position, and Borges. I mean, Eel bothers me. Knight, you can't fault him for effort, or can you? Borges, look at that little collective there as a unit. How do you think they played?
First of all, Ayla looks promising. He does offer something, but it's how you get the best from him. And right now he's being exposed in certain parts of the game. And just because you're a tall player doesn't necessarily mean that you're good in the air. You can see that if Ayla was playing with centre-backs and players in their natural positions, he would bring a lot of qualities to this side. He will be a work in progress. The reality is that right now, he's not showing the things that this side need, and that's not his fault. You need a commanding centre-half. He's not one of those. And the players that are around him are making him look worse than he is. And that's why he gets exposed slightly defensively. But you see a lot there that going forward, you think, next season.
He's championship match day 20 quality.
Absolutely.
He doesn't start if we've got because we got four central defenders out. If we've got two of those fit, he doesn't start, but he gets on the bench without question.
No, I would say maybe he doesn't start straight away, but I would be expecting him to be challenging and working himself into the starting side. But for example, if you play him as a centre half in a 2 of a 4, you need the other guy to be the first ball winner. Yeah. If you play him in a 3, he plays on the right hand side or the left hand side. He needs the combinations, as Dave Febbs would say. He is a combination centre back. And Paul, in terms of your question.
Yeah, Paul, our 5'9" Irish international midfielder hoping to play in the World Cup if Ireland get there, Jason Knight. Is he making a decent job of what's being asked of him back there?
I think he is. Especially at Borough, you could see he was directing operations at the back, and it just needed someone to do that because Ayla's been thrown in at the deep end. So I'm not sure we can judge him too much until he's got real centre backs playing beside him. But I think Knight's making the best of a bad fist, and he's standing up in his role as captain, and he is taking one for the team, as you said. And then Borges has just regressed, I think, whether it's because Mehmeti's not there, but I'm glad he's on loan and we can send him back at the end of the season.
Oh God, yeah, no, he certainly is. Richard, yeah, Paul's just said about Borges. This not playing Cam Pring, and dare I say it, even Ross McCrory has played as a central defender, and you don't necessarily need to play Knight in there, because you could have a back three of Ross McCrory on the right, Eala in the middle, and Cam Pring on the left. What's wrong with that, Dave? I'm not the bloody coach, but at least that's players playing in positions they're familiar with.
But who's not necessarily? I mean, essentially, what we're saying.
Was meant to be. Sorry, Dave. That was meant to be for Richard. Richard, I'll come back to you on that as well. Those you could play that as a back three, and you'd have the height and a little bit of dominance. Richard, what do you think?
Absolutely, 100%. Look, Borges, my opinion, I agree with what you've said there, Paul. Thank God he's going to go back to Borough. If I could give a rating that starts with a minus, I would do that for Borges today. I thought he was appalling. Jed Wallace from West Brom was given so much time and space. He was able to just attack us at will. The fact that you had McCrory, playing on the wrong side means all the time he has to cut back in. And in the second half, it was night and day, wasn't it? You know, play on his natural foot. And we've got to keep it simple. We've got to keep it simple. Let's not get complicated. Let's put the right player in the right positions, because with the injuries we have, we can't be too sophisticated at the back at the moment. I'd be quite happy with lumping it into Rose Ed, quite frankly.
Yeah. Dave, picking up on your point, a couple of comments here on the text feed. Borges is a left back filling in at centre back, but yes, he was poor. Cam Pring has been shocking all season when he's come on, which is true. But Dave, my suggestion, I think you were going to jump in there, that you could play a back three of McCrory, Eala, and Pring, and that's putting players footers on the right side, left footers on the left. And with Borges, we've signed this lad Naylor. Why couldn't we play Naylor? He's 21-year-old left back from Man City. He can't be worse than Borges. So
this is
my suggestion of a three with, as I just called it out then.
I mean, McCrory as a right centre back, it would be a choice. In principle, it's on the right hand side of defence. But the issue that you've got is that then you're putting Pring in a position where Borges and neither of them have been very good, because it wasn't Borges playing as left centre back versus Derby when that defence got torn to pieces. That was Pring. So it doesn't really solve that problem. Yes, you're putting McCrory, and basically you're saying that you would prefer McCrory over a fit Tanner to be different. It doesn't solve the issue. What we're essentially saying is we've got one centre back. How do we overcome that problem? And we don't like any of the options. You're right. You could put McCrory there. I don't dislike Jason Knight in the back line. I don't dislike him in that position. I think the issue is Borges is wildly out of form, and no matter what you do, you've got a problem. We're speaking about McCrory being off form. Do you think he's suddenly going to morph into this fantastic player playing as a right centre back?
No,
I don't. I see him as a wing back and possibly as a right back. Do I trust him as a right centre back? Not really. Okay. You know, it doesn't matter who you put where. We don't have the sufficient quality players to do a job, and this affects everything. This affects the pace of play, the way we play. I agree with Richard. For me, if you're going to talk about Borges as a left centre back, just don't play him anymore. And the one area that you hit on is if we are safe, because I'm not sure that we are right now, because I don't see us getting another point. Naylor comes in for me, and you find another way. And if you tell me that you have to play Knight and Ayla as your centre backs with Naylor on one side and McCrory on the other side as a four, I would rather that than seeing this same definition of madness.
Okay, moving on. Let's look at the midfield area. Morsey and Randall. Now, Morsey, when we signed him, I thought this is an experienced head. We were within 3 points of the playoffs, if not in them. I thought he was going to be a good signing. I don't think he is. He's pedestrian. He's very slow. And you look at the fact that George Earthy was signed. He got on and got minutes. Interestingly, we all wanted Josh Stokes to stay. He's not getting in the Stockport side at the moment. I just did a quick review of their team. But I would much sooner see George Earthy, or if he had stayed, Josh Stokes playing in the middle than a 35-year-old has-been, which is what Morsey is turning out to be. Do you think I'm harshing my criticism there, Paul, of Morsey? Because he's not going to come cheap on his wages, even though he's out of contract, is he?
I think some of it, his signing, is not just to do with on the pitch, it's to do with leadership. Because to me, the only leaders we've got are Knight and maybe Randall. And with Viner going, he was a leader. I don't see McCrory as a leader, although he shouts a lot at some of them. So I think Morsey was signed for a bit of experience and leadership in the dressing room. And he probably does that, but I agree. I mean, at times yesterday, he was the deepest player, wasn't he? Doing the old Marlon Pack quarterback role, trying to spread out from that. But the play slows down, doesn't it? It's when he's on the pitch. And it was telling that he got subbed off for Earthy, I think. Or
yes, he did.
They were trying to speed it up then. So, I mean, he didn't come here for this, does he? So he came thinking we were in a promotion push.
Yeah, well, far from that. Richard, the only thing that Morsey's done is tell Anis Mehmeti what a wonderful place Ipswich Town is to go to. Is that a fair comment on my part?
No, I disagree with you there, David, because he's very good at pointing. Okay, he's very good at pointing. We've got form here, haven't we? If you look at, we always old man in the centre of the park. You know, we've done this before. Chris Brunt, yeah. What Morsey's doing is slowing the game down. We've got ourselves into a situation as soon as it gets into midfield, as soon as the ball gets in, all the pace has gone. All the pace has gone. We're losing that direction. Look, I bought into the Morsey. I'm going to use your word now, Dave T. I bought into the propaganda. I really believed that when we signed him, we were getting a player that would be dynamic, would help us get forward, but no, not for me.
Dave, the midfield, and let's bring Tiny Boy into the equation, because when he's good, but when he's not, he's bloody useless.
First of all, on Morsey, I think that he's a good example of where the problems lie, because to get the best from Morsey, the side has to play in a certain way. That FA Cup game where he was fantastic, there was pace in the side, there was vibrancy, there was excellence all around, there was a mentality. As soon as that mentality is lost, as soon as the game is slowed down, he slows it down even more. As soon as you've got no one to pass to, it gets even worse. And to bring you on to him and Scott Twine, who are the leaders? Who are they? Who are the people that you would expect to bring something? Now, Morsey's Captain Fantastic for Ipswich, they love him, you know, the Egyptian king. I would expect things to happen with him in the side that are well above yesterday. Twine is another one. You would expect him to show some kind of leadership. He doesn't. We all know that he doesn't, but you would expect it. When the going gets tough, like yesterday, he goes missing. And he did go missing yesterday. There was a moment just before half-time where, first of all, he went to receive a pass from Borges, and he literally waited for the ball to come to him. And you know at Sunday League, you don't do that. And then literally 1 minute later, he's got the ball in their box, does absolutely nothing with it, passes it back to nobody, and West Brom are on the counter. This is not a player standing up to be counted for when the team is suffering. And my biggest issue is that our biggest players are failing when it comes to leadership, and everybody else is following that same path. And just to bring it on to the next one for you, David, what do you think of Horvat yesterday and his role?
Well, I'd actually not written him in the team that I've got here, and you just mentioned it. He was invisible. To quote a song title of the same name, he was the invisible man. He was poor. I mean, Paul, what did you think of Horvat yesterday?
But it was hard to think anything. The chap next to me said after 15 minutes, they didn't think all that had touched the ball. And I think he'd had one touch. So he just wasn't in the game, was he, at all?
And the question is for Horvat's reason, is that on him to go searching for the ball, or is it a simpler case if we don't have the defenders with sufficient quality to feed the tens? Because you can dispute the role of Viner. Some people like it, some people don't. He was one of the best progressive passers in the league. Dickey was very, very good at it. Who do we now have that splits the defence? Who splits the lines? We don't really have players to do that. Does Morsi do it? Who does it from the back? No one. And that's the biggest issue. And then all of a sudden you're talking about your tens not getting on the ball. But you need players with sufficient quality to get them on the ball.
Yeah. Richard, Emil, I'd forgotten he was even playing midway through the second half. He popped up on the other. I said he's still on the pitch. I mean, he's done what we expected. He's going to finish. He'll probably get another 2 before the season's out. But he's not a player that's going to drive us forward next season. Even though we've got him here for at least another couple of years, I guess. What did you think of his performance yesterday?
This is not a Harry Kane comparison, all right? But can you remember when Roy Hodgson got Harry Kane taking corners for England? And we could never work it out, could we? Get in the box, Harry. That's what you're there for. Emil Rees yesterday was taking throw-ins. And he was trying to launch the ball long. I mean, he was he certainly wasn't our Icelandic warrior like Magnusson used to be. Remember, we used to do the clap?
Yeah.
But he was as weak as his throw-ins as anything. And I just looked at his performance yesterday and nothing there. There's just nothing there. I don't see any burning desire to chase the ball down. I don't see any burning desire to, press for the team. Lazy.
Dave?
That's my view.
Rees.
First of all, with Rees, the goal we conceded, if you go man-to-man defensively, there's no excuse to give your man a free header. There are other players that perhaps could have done more there, but it falls down to him, and that's dialing it in. What's the minimum you expect? You think back to the Leicester goal where Bird gets out-jumped. At least he was there jumping, and we can say you should have done better. He didn't even make a challenge, he just watched. The guy didn't do some kind of, 5D chess move of blocking. It was just run around him. It's so incredibly poor. And at the other end of the pitch, he's a hot and cold striker. We know what he is. We were told what we were getting. And in the first game, we were like, wow. But he shows he has good games and not good games. The issue with Rees comes with, where's the competition? There isn't any. It's Rees or nobody. And when you are in a situation of Rees or nobody, you're not going to get the goals or the quality that you need. What you need is Rees plus others. So the moment you get to 55 minutes, 60 minutes, and Rees is off it, right? You're off, next guy on. When that happens at the moment, it's like, well, that's the striker option's gone because Armstrong's not going to bring it. What else are we going to do? And that's the problem. We are pinning our hopes on Rees. And as we've come to learn, it shouldn't be that.
No, one player we haven't mentioned, and I don't see any point in doing it, is Mark Sykes as well on the right side in the first half, offered very little. Let's get into the action. What there was of it. Maja, player that we were linked with probably 3 or 4 years ago. He'd still be better than anything that we've got in our team, but he gave Knight a slip after a McCrory error, but Randall saved the day there. Let's talk about the goal. Paul, you first. We sort of covered it already. It was weak, wasn't it? They overloaded the back post, I think is what the commentator said. But could we have done better?
Yes. One of the young lads I know, because it's Foundation Day, he was invited in to spend some time with the analysts. And he told me after the game that the analysts showed him the work they did on the corners. and they do all this AI looking at every single corner West Brom have taken, and they know if they put two hands up, it's going to the back post, and one hand up is going to the front post. And so they absolutely had reviewed and planned for that corner that was delivered yesterday, and the people just didn't do their jobs. Reece just went missing on marking the person. So we knew what was coming. The analysts had told the team what was coming, and they couldn't handle it. But we are so vulnerable on those corners because we've got no height, have we? Apart from Ayla's 6'5", but sometimes at the moment he might as well be 5'6" because he doesn't always use his height in the best way.
Yeah, Richard, that was a dereliction of duty then by Reece. If that level of analysis has gone into the game, isn't it?
Absolutely, it switched off. And in fairness, you thought when you were looking at the corner, you knew it was going to go high, you knew it was going to go long. I thought the biggest challenge was going to be the sun in Vitek's eyes. Dave, perhaps you could lend in your sunglasses and your baseball cap. It would look good with the kit. But I just felt that Reece just switched off. And as soon as George Campbell headed that ball down, you knew it was going in. You knew it was going in.
Yeah. Do you know what? I sensed they were... I was going to film the West Brom away end, and if you've seen X, I literally got the goal going in before I panned to the far end. I just sensed they were going to... Because they were building up momentum, and we were so flat. Dave, I mean, Knight standing behind the line with the first... When the header does go down... should Vitek have got there? I'm not calling him out on that, but he knows that ball's going to be played to the back post, and he's good in those situations. Or was Campbell so far out that Vitek is relying on Reece to do his job on the bloke who's come up to head the ball?
In that respect, you give a bit of credit to the attackers because they did a good job of making sure that Vitek can get nowhere near the ball. It's not a case of him being routed to his line. It's a case of all of his different channels are blocked. He can't move. The issue for me is it would be really easy here for me to just say my classic line of assist by recruitment. And there is an element of that because we don't have the sufficient ones. And yet again, Bristol City Airways are free of charge, come into our box, score a goal from a header. How many times are we going to see it? But what really frustrates me is that it's a free header. And that comes down to Reece. Once Reece doesn't do his job, we can talk about who else could have done bits and pieces. But once you have a free header from your essentially 4 yards out, you expect the player to score. And if it was at the other end, we'd be calling it a horrific miss. So once Reece doesn't do his job, everything else after that is kind of semantics for me. It comes down to Reece not doing his job.
Mm-hmm. Paul, triple substitution at half-time. Off went Sykes, Morsey and Twine. On come Pring, Bird and Armstrong. We've talked about the individual performances of players. Bird, we've spoken about him favourably. At least he looked up for a bit. What about Sinks yesterday? He got half a game. Didn't offer much in a 2, did he? Never does, really.
He doesn't offer much in a 2 or 1 anything. My heart just sinks now when he comes on. No pun intended, because it's just like it's a waste of a player. I know Sam Bell's not the answer, but why can't he come on instead of Sinks? Because Struber referenced Sinks doing some good things, but he's never going to score a goal. When you've got Sinks and Bergzog on, we're not going to score, are we? We're not going to score.
Yeah. Bird and Reece combined to set up McCrory for a rare shot. I watched the Sky highlights, and there was so little involving us. The keeper managed to pan that away. They weren't allowed to play Max O'Leary as part of that loan deal. I wonder if Max will end up signing a contract back. Has Max gone to West Brom, or is that a loan? That's a loan, isn't it? Yeah, that's why we didn't play yesterday.
No, it's
a full, David.
What's that?
It's a full deal. He was injured, I think. Why didn't play?
Yeah, he was injured yesterday. He could play, but he was injured.
Oh, there you go, showing my ignorance yet again. They had a player on loan from Palace, Imre, tested Vitek with 1 shot, and then Vitek, we talked about this earlier, gave the ball away, produced a good save from Price. Now, Armstrong was on, and there was one incident where he crossed the ball. Richard Bergzorg, the Lamborghini driving Bergzorg, so he's not going to be on here for on our wage bill for peanuts. how did he miss that?
I'm staggered. I'm absolutely staggered. I mean, I don't think I've seen a grown man skip, but that's what it kind of looked like. As the ball came across, I was in two minds. Had the ball gone behind, had the ball gone or did he jump over the ball? Now, I'm not sure exactly what happened there. Let's not forget, right? Bergzorg actually has got a good record against West Brom. When he was at Huddersfield, he scored for them against West Brom. The reason why we couldn't sign him any earlier in the window, if you remember, was he scored for Borough against West Brom.
He
So
did.
in that position, you're thinking, here we go. You get your hat trick of goals against West Brom. What happened? I've heard various things said that somebody shouted, leave it. Or I don't know, somebody said, someone's trying to nick your Lamborghini. I don't know what it was, but it was bizarre. Yeah, the ball was probably a little behind, but time your run. It just looked like he jumped over the ball.
Dave, you can get on your hobby horse here. Tinian must fail or fall. What a crap and expensive signing that he's been. I dread to think how much we're paying in wages for Morsey and Bergzorg combined, but I wouldn't have thought we're getting much change out of 25 grand a week, would you?
I really don't know how much they're on, but what I would say is that they are two different things. Morsey at the time, we were pretty desperate for an additional centre midfielder, so I really don't have any complaints there, even though it's panned out in a way we wouldn't like. There's a big context behind that. Bergzorg, I really don't see the point. Fans aren't exactly impressed with how you're playing. Armstrong doesn't do a lot. That was one example where he did do something yesterday. I thought he was really poor overall yesterday. Didn't harry, didn't harass. He's in a 2 and offered basically nothing. It was pipe and slippers defending. But that was a moment when he did get free because he knew he was free, that he spotted a hole. Why would you not shoot if you're Bergzorg? It makes no sense. And from what I've seen of it, and I did look back this morning, I think he dummies it. I really think he dummies it because I really thought yesterday, maybe it's behind him, like Richard. Maybe there's a benefit of the doubt there. I think he can take that opportunity if he wants it. And this is my main question for you guys. And Paul, I know you have to leave, so I'll ask you first. I think we're reasonably defensive of Struber, unlike everybody in the fan base, because some people think that he should go. But it's Struber playing Bergzorg over Bell and others. Where does Struber hold responsibility when he keeps playing these players rather than some of the others on the bench?
Yeah, good point.
I cannot work that one out because, I did the drive to Borough last week and I'd happily jump in his Lambo and drive him up there and leave him there. But Bell came back, he was full of energy. He's not the right quality for us if we're looking to get promoted. But his first few games back, he was player of the month in January. He was full of it. And then he's just been left to rot on the bench. And Bergzorg, he's been criticised by Struber, like, if he don't want to be here, we don't want him. And then we get him. And some of that might be it was him or nothing. At the moment, I'd rather have nothing than him because he's just sucking the life out of it.
Yeah.
But I don't understand that decision by Struber. He must rate Bell less than he rates Bergzorg.
All right.
This is where my main criticism of Struber comes in, is that if you look at the options we have and how little we're using, how worthless Bergzorg seems and how little we're using Earthy, are we really saying that Stokes wouldn't have benefited from game time here? Are we really saying that Bergzorg is better than Skinner, whose loan is not working out at all well going to Bath City, but that's a whole nother story? Are we really saying that these two couldn't have contributed? For me, it doesn't make sense in that area. And I saw a Sam Bell in January that was giving his heart and soul to the side. You can speak about quality levels, but at least I'm speaking today that the heart and soul is missing. Sam Bell has that. And if I'm going to criticise Struber, it's in those micromanaging decisions, choosing players that I don't think deserve to be on the football pitch right now.
There's a few there. Richard, I'm looking at the threads on OTIB. This is at 9:45. Paul, you've got to shoot now, haven't you, mate? Yeah. So good to have you today, and we'll obviously see you again before the end of the season. Dave, that gives us the opportunity to put the QR code. If you want to have your say on this, come in as a participant for the remaining bit of this podcast. Feel free to do that by clicking on the QR code that Dave's going to put up there. But Richard, one of the main threads is in 16 hours, 5 pages on the forum. I've read some of them. Struber out. At what point, and Dave sort of started to allude to it, at what point do you question our coach? Because he's the one that allowed Stokes to go out. He's, sanctioned these appointments coming in. We talked earlier about having a playing identity, which we seem to have for that 12 games at the start of the season. But at what point do you criticise? And what I've read on that thread, there's some people that are alluding to what I'm hinting here, that he's a bit one-dimensional with his tactics. And then there's others saying, quite rightly as well, two things can be right at the same time, quite rightly as well, that the problem is way above Struber, but he's got to take some accountability, and the board could knee-jerk in this 2-week international break if they felt under pressure. Mr. Lansdowne getting a lot of personal abuse from Section 82. Richard.
So when Struber joined, we were promised chaos ball. Do you remember? Boys, we must have the chaos. And we would exploit that. What we've now got is you've got chaos within our team. Okay. I'm still in. Okay. But I take your point. I think we're at a pivotal moment. I thought the pivotal moment was in January when we didn't actually do the right thing in the transfer window. A pivotal moment now, because we've got a situation whereby I disagree with what you said earlier, Dave T. I feel that we are going to get 5 points over the next 7 games. I don't see any wins. Okay, it's draws for me. From Lansdowne's perspective, he knows he hasn't got to sit in his own stand with his name emblazoned for, well, at least 3 weeks now when we play Sheffield United at home. Could we have a mutually convenient departure and then we bring in a sporting director who then appoints his own manager? I'm getting bad vibes about the whole sporting director thing, if I'm being honest.
I'm going to come on to that. That's the next topic.
Well, I'll elaborate in a minute if that's okay then, David. But I think if Lansdowne wants to get rid of Struber, now is when he'll do it. I believe that Struber has still got the backing of the majority of fans because we can see how his hands are tied. But if Lansdowne wants to exploit the opportunity, he'll do it now.
Well, and he was pretty quick in because Nigel Pearson had the backing of the fans, and he went with poor form, and well, we all know that's history. Dave, how long has Struber got? I mean, Richard's made a good point. He called out the academy this week. He said it's not been producing players. There's too big a gap. He's not prepared to risk any of the players from the academy. I know some people that watch the under-21s and say there's certainly no Alex Scott, Semenyo, and they're like coming through. But he has to take some accountability, Dave, even allowing for the injury crisis that we've got in defence, because some of his selections are bizarre, his substitutions. What do you think?
Well, I think in terms of calling out the academy, he's playing the longer game here, and for me that was personally encouraging because it sounds like a manager that wants to be here in the long term, and he's making it clear where the blame lies. Even in the interview post-game on Radio Bristol yesterday, he was talking about the loss of certain players and how it's affected the way he wants to play and limiting what he can do. And he also called out the players for their mentality yesterday. What I find interesting about Struber that I don't think he's doing right now is, where's the siege mentality? After everything the squad have gone through, and in a football context, they have gone through a lot this season. You know, in life context, maybe not, but in a football context, yes. I don't see a siege mentality there. And as a manager, is it your job to motivate players? Yes and no. Some of it comes down to personal responsibility, but some of it comes down to how you manipulate players. You know, which players do you put an arm around the shoulder, which ones do you go hard in. I don't feel like he's lost the dressing room, but I just don't feel like he's got that anger flowing through the side. Because after that 3-bullet header against Middlesbrough, there was a lot of goodwill. And yesterday was a type of game where you come out all guns blazing to show people we're still in the building, we still care. And the players didn't. And some of that is on Struber in the mentality side of it, because he's not creating that siege mentality. Yeah. How much of it is his fault? I'm not sure. But he's not creating that siege mentality.
And we thought, and we commented on this last week, that we thought when the joy on the players' faces when they got that win, got that point against Borough last week, you know, there was that togetherness and that commitment there. But clearly, you know, we were misled by that. Let's talk about what was the other piece of news coming, hot on the heels of a new chief executive. Being appointed, Charlie Boss, who was there at the front of the director's box yesterday. He announces that we are now looking for a sporting director. We probably got one, but they're allowing a period of grace. Richard, sporting director, does this signal the end for Brian Tinian and Dave gets his wish?
How do you remove Teflon? I'm always curious about that, because they put it on the space rockets, don't they? And it survives coming through the Earth's atmosphere. I don't know. I think that I've said this before. I've got Benny Lennartson vibes about this whole sporting director thing. My concern is that what we do is we bring in somebody that is going to be an ally of Lansdowne's, that will not necessarily be the person that Struber can work with. I just don't see that it changes, because Lansdowne will still be there. You could change a lot of things, but as long as Lansdowne is there, I don't see a significant change. I think that Tinian has got a job for as long as he wants it, as long as Lansdowne here. I just don't see that the person coming in would have the tools to make the changes necessary to take into the Premiership.
What do you think, Dave?
I disagree slightly, Richard, and I'll explain why. At least try and explain why. I think this is an admission that they've got it wrong. Over the last few years that we've all been saying, you know, fans have been saying that the network's not good enough, this is not good enough, and this is their back doorway of trying to save face, knowing in the long term they'll have to change. Now, if this ends up just another wage in the building, then Richard is absolutely right. But I see this principle as step one to the start of wishing certain people well in their future endeavours. If this is to go well, this is what happens here. If they truly mean it, and when we talk about the guy at the top being the problem, this is a way that he can be isolated. Because if you have a sporting director and a CEO and someone, say a technical director, all of a sudden the guy at the top has far less influence. Right now you have Tinian that's not up to standards of this job, and then you have the next guy. Charlie Boss has come in, and the first thing that's happened is we need a review. Maybe, just maybe, and maybe I live in fantasy land, but words are getting through, you know, the job's not being done here. This is the problem. Because Charlie Boss is a new guy. You know, for all the previous CEO, he was already in the building. Charlie Boss is fresh eyes. Maybe, just maybe, he's presenting a case to say, look, we have a problem here. I would like to believe that this is step one to something, and it removes Lansdowne from the football side. And once they do this, if it's still going wrong, he then has no excuses left. But for me right now, we have to wait. But this is a positive move.
Yeah. Let's talk about Charlie Boss. As somebody said on the text feed here, you know, he is a marketing guy. Charlie Boss's career was spent mainly with Disney, where he had a good career to do with selling sporting rights. And then he was at the Jockey Club and was replaced in both jobs he had at the Jockey Club by more experienced people. His only football experience was an incomplete 12 months at Southampton. So I don't know if any of you know the answer to this question, is the new sporting director going to report into the chief executive? Because if he does, I don't see a sporting director being somebody that we would look and say, that is a good appointment.
But if you look at the remit of him is to literally look at everything across the board. So I saw people like Rob Newman being mentioned. I'm not sure that's the job for him. He's more of a recruitment guy that goes out and gets players. This guy's being brought in to essentially assess everything about the football club. Yeah. Every single part
of it. I think if you look at the guy's LinkedIn profile, he is limited as a chief executive. When he had two jobs.
Sorry, I thought you meant the sporting director.
Oh, sporting directors across the board. Yeah, it is across the board. Rob Newman is a head of recruitment type person. He's not somebody that's probably got the awareness to look at the analysts and everything like that. And I have to say, as a recruitment specialist, Rob Newman, he's been used to shopping in the equivalent of the bloody Waitrose, and we're shopping in the food bank. When you look at that analysis of the players that are on his radar. Richard, you're shaking your head there. Do you think I'm being harsh on Rob as not a sporting director, and that his players that he looks at are way out of our league? So what value is he going to bring?
I think there's six names I've got in my head as to who I think could do the job. Do you to rattle them off very quickly?
Yeah, go on. You wrote a very good piece actually in the week, so I've read that. So you fire away.
Okay. All right. Let's deal with the elephant in the room first of all. Okay. So Tinian. All right. Possible, but probably not the ideal or the most likely appointment. Okay. So there we go with Tinian. Rob Newman. I disagree with you slightly. I get where you're coming from. I totally understand what you're coming from because of his role at West Ham and Man City, but he's also done work at Cambridge United as well. I think he's credible. I think he's realistic. And I think he's probably got an awful lot of club connections to kind of fit the mould. The next one is never going to happen in a month of Sundays, all right? Never. Nigel Pearson, okay? I don't think we need to explain why. It'd be great for us, but it's not going to happen. The next three, I would take any one of these three. Greg Broughton. He's doesn't have any connection with Bristol City, but previously at Norwich City and Blackburn Rovers. He's currently sporting director at Chicago Fire. So he's a strong example of what a modern sporting director should look like. Don't be misled because he's in the MLS. That is becoming a very competitive league, and I would say it's probably championship standard. A left field one. This guy is has no connection with Bristol City. He's the sort of mould that City admire, but he doesn't have a connection. And then the final one is a gentleman called Gareth Jenkins. He's the former director of the UAE Pro League. He does have some Bristol City connections. He's what I would call an intelligent option, but he's probably got a more useful profile. It's very difficult trying to distill down what we need and what Lansdowne says we're going to get, because I do believe that what we're going to just create is another layer of management that removes him from the heat, but still continues his ethos. I did say a few weeks ago, Lansdowne's digging in for the long term. He's not looking to get out. We can curse and use awful language at him in the stadium, all right? But that doesn't matter. The only way Lansdowne will go, economically, this doesn't work for him anymore. That's the only way Lansdowne's going to go. Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox now, David.
Yeah, Dave, go on.
He does have a massive ego, though. You can almost expect a radio interview with Chance yesterday. He's not going to have liked that, and he will have heard. And I was happy to hear those chants yesterday because there were certain parts of yesterday's game where people were running out of patience with the players, with the backwards and getting on their back. And I don't necessarily think getting at the players is the way forward right now. I want to hear those chants towards them. I don't want them. I don't want Lansdowne. I don't want Tinian to get a free ride here. They need to know. And this move to me is an admission of failure from them. And based on what we know about them, yeah, they'll probably get it wrong. But right now we have that little bit of hope of maybe, just maybe they're opening their eyes. Charlie Boss, he's an outside eyes. They'll bring in this sporting director and hopefully they won't be yes men and they will tell Lansdowne as it is rather than someone like Tinian who's just happy to have a job. Because I hear people saying stuff like, well, if Tinian's not there, we can move him to the scouting department. Just think about that you can just move a guy around from the academy to scouting and he'll happily take it. Because I don't know about you guys in your jobs, but if somebody demoted you in a company, I personally would be like, well, I'm going to leave and I'm going to go somewhere else and prove you wrong. That's the kind of level of quality that we have right now. And it will take fresh eyes to come in and say, this is not the way. And I don't know anything about Charlie Boss. All I'm saying is that within a couple of months of him being in the building, we're now talking about a sporting director. That's a tip of the cap moment, isn't it? That's like, well done for trying to do something.
I think,
at the very
Dave,
minimum.
I'd be honest, I think the person that is nobody's mentioned in this episode today is Richard Scudamore in the background. You know, I mean, he's on the board now. He's got in Lansdowne's ear. Charlie Boss is, he's a bright guy. You know, his CV is, there's nothing wrong with his CV. I don't think he's a particularly strong chief executive contender. And I can see us having a sporting director that is probably going to be, I mean, the one that Richard said who caught my eye, I read his article in full last week, is the guy who's now with the Chicago Fire. That would be a brave one. But I think we're going to probably get somebody that leaves us very underwhelmed, because somebody that's going to come in and challenge Lansdowne, we all know what happens when you speak out. You do not last. Simple as.
Yeah.
You know, there
don't
is
you think it's really? Don't you think it's really unusual
to come in and say, how much money have we got to spend? You know, so
Well,
are we going through another? We've talked about the academy. It's all nothing's coming through. Are we going to have another 3 years of we got to put some pillars in place and blah blah blah? Yeah, can you that's not until Lansdowne does something out of character or goes, it ain't going to change, is it?
But for example, like it's not always a case of the owner knows exactly what's happening within the football club. You might think they do, but they're so removed from life that sometimes they have no idea, and they need to be told how it is. And if it means you lose your job, then you do it. Tinian's not doing that. Like, do you think that Lansdowne knows or is content with the fact that we've spent 0.25% of all the championship dollars or euros or pounds last summer? Do you think he realises that? Do you think he knows what a mess they're making of Skinner with the different loan moves this season? He puts people in charge. He probably lives in a world where he thinks that his budget is sufficient. The world is moved on. People need to tell him that. People need to be absolutely clearer. And when I see them bringing in a sporting director, it's like, okay, this is something, an admission of failure. It's taken 8 years too long.
It's only something, Dave. It's only something if you bring in a sporting director who's got some credibility. It's like when we brought Richard Gould in to be chief executive. He had a Bristol City connection, which is the bloody same old thing that comes up. That's Rob Newman. He's one of our own. Bring him back in, right? But when Richard Gould came in, yes, he was known to the club, but he'd had a stellar career in sporting administration at both Somerset Commercial and then morphing into chief exec, and then chief exec of one of the biggest cricket clubs in Surrey. When he came here, that was a big coup. And we had Richard Gould and Nigel Pearson running, I'll call it the admin and the football. We were well positioned there. Now, the fact that Richard Gould left for the top job, he took the equivalent of taking the chairman of the FA's role if he was going, staying in football, but he took the top job in cricket. Richard, we need somebody with stature to come into that role. Otherwise, we're going to be left underwhelmed, aren't we?
Absolutely. Look, the reality is that something I've been calling for some time is the lack of a football strategy in the club. I totally get what you're saying, Dave T. I totally get it. But anybody who's been brave enough to hold a mirror up to Lansdowne has gone. They've been disappeared. Now, it's
Not
going
if
to
they're
take
not
a
if
very...
they're yes and no. Sorry to interrupt, but there's two
No, go
examples of
on.
this. I forget who it was, but in one of Lansdowne's interviews, he talks about one
Yeah,
of the guys, and he's like, the problem was he didn't say yes often enough. But at the same time, Mark Ashton showed if you do certain things and you speak in certain ways, you can manipulate to get as much money as you like from him. You know, it was a festival of spending under Mark Ashton. That's all he did. If you know
yeah,
how to do your job properly, which unfortunately Tinian does not, you can
yeah.
manipulate Lansdowne's ego to get what you want.
I, I, I just don't feel we've got enough grown-ups in the club. Okay,
No.
I don't know Charlie Boss. I'm desperately trying not to confuse him with that guy from last year, Ibiza Boss. The one with the haircut and the sunglasses. I'm hoping that he has got something about him. He is a salesman. Whether Mark Ashton, you know, extracting all that cash from Lansdowne, we had a little bubble of excitement, didn't we? I just feel that we just need someone with gravitas. We're certainly not going to see the likes of Neil Warnock coming here. I mean, my goodness,
No.
how old's he now?
72.
That's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
that's
it was
not happening.
somebody there. The real Bennett has said Lee Johnson got that money, not Ashton. I think that's the thing there. You said, Richard, about somebody having, Lansdowne surrendering something, right? Mark Ashton could talk the hind legs off a donkey. He understood football as well, right? I mean, he'd been around everywhere. If you dig deep, he had a checkered record wherever he won. And he was given too much free rein by Lansdowne, whereas at Ipswich, the people managing him weren't there. But Lansdowne loved the Johnson family. Yeah. So if you take a combination of the snake oil salesman, as some people call Ashton, and the loving with Lee Johnson, that's what we had there. Dave, I am worried now about next season because we've said on this pod on more than one occasion, under Pearson, we had a reset and we preserved our championship status. We're looking at the summer now with a sporting director, change of approach, doesn't matter who it is, but we got to go out and sign probably between 7 and 11 players next summer. Yeah, assuming certain players go out the door, and it's clearly looks like McCrory will go, Knight will probably go as well. We need to get 7 to 11 players. We're going to be next season, never mind playoffs. Next season is one for survival, isn't it?
This is another one of those resets that happen every 3 or 4 years. The good was the positive. We have Struber in charge, who is used to working under certain types of directors. He's a coach. The international model, the European model is the coach basically manages the players, other people go and buy them. That's his role in it. That's what he does. So he will be comfortable with this. I think Richard hit a very useful nail on the head. We don't have enough adults in the building. And it dawned on certain people what you're saying, David. Oh my God, this summer is going to be horrific. We have because how it come to stands there is hard relegation battle. 5 months is a long time. Come August, there are going to be some additional centre backs in the building. Stokes, we hope, will come back. Please, another step forward somewhere. Moves in completely. You will be going. Right now, based on the squad that we see, make no mistake, we're in a relegation battle next season. But 5 months is a long time in football. And if we do make these changes, well, what's the point? If we're going into that doom already, you have to believe in something and you have to believe that hopefully they will get this right. But I'm sorry for rambling, they have to sell season tickets in the next couple of months. Good luck.
You're getting good at this, Dave. I was just coming on to say, who'd want to be selling. I mean, Richard, how do they make it a viable option? Because a lot of empty seats yesterday, and some people even left when the goal went in the first half, right? How do you encourage 15,000? How many season ticket holders we got now? Is it 15?
15,000.
15,000 season ticket holders. When does season ticket season ticket renewal, lack of, become an issue? Because is it when 3,000 of those don't renew, 1,500 is a drop in the ocean? But what if 5,000 people think enough is enough, because we know it's going to be more of the same and the varied kickoff times and everything like that? I mean, how do you package Bristol City to a fan right now?
I'll answer that in two ways, David, if you don't mind. So we'll start off on the negatives. Okay, we're currently on 51 points. Oxford and Leicester are both on 39. You talk about relegation next season. We are being drawn into a relegation battle now. Okay, we won't go down. I'm convinced of that. I do believe that we will get 5 points from the next remaining 7 games. It's our run rate that concerns me coming out of this season and into next. However, having said that, let's not forget that the Semenyo money will become available to us for the summer transfer window. If you believe everything you see and hear and read about Alex Scott's performances at Bournemouth, it's likely that he will secure a transfer away from Bournemouth in the summer. I think that will probably provide us with a bigger pot of cash than we've had for some time. We are going to have to rely on Charlie Boss, that's a cheap shot, becoming the ultimate salesman and selling the dream to the supporters. And that dream is going to have to consist of, we are going to invest, we are backing the manager, we are bringing in a sporting director with integrity, not just a patsy, somebody that's going to do as he's told and will listen to the Lansdowns. And I think that's the only way we are going to be able to secure something like a mood of optimism that will mean people will spend their hard-earned money on season tickets.
I mean, we're heading for another £20 million loss. And when you say about the Semenyo coming in the literal sense of cash, it's in this year's accounts, right? But, the fact that it's
over a period of time.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, look, I wish I shared your optimism. Dave, I think I can tell by the look on your face that you're thinking the same as me. That is looking through...
Something of interest in Dusseldorf, when they do their season tickets, I'm expecting my season ticket to come out to me, so I was looking it up. They don't do it until the end of June. They wait until the season is done. They give you a time to know who's going to more or less be in the side going into pre-season, so you can make your choices based on what you see. I'm a bit of an anarchist and a bit of rebellion in me by nature. I don't have skin in that game of buying a season ticket, but I think that we're at the point where people should really think about just holding back and going, no. Make a real statement and say, we will buy the season tickets when you show us something. You show us some ambition. You show us who you're going to buy, because we are no longer in the world where football is your cheap escape from life. It costs money. And yesterday, I saw somebody on the forum say, watching City takes 4 or 5 hours of my life. I have a lot of stuff I need to be doing in my life at the moment. It's hard to justify. And that's what football is right now. It's got to be something that gives back. It's a two-way conversation. And right now what the club are doing is saying, please give us your money, but we're not going to offer you hope. We're not going to offer you that much entertainment. And when it comes down to it, we're going to mismanage the squad, so we'll pull the rug. If you're a season ticket holder, you've really got to ask the question, is it worth it? And I understand fully as a football fan, it's just what you do. But this is one of those moments where you say, I'm going to hold fire. I'm going to hold and I'm going to wait. And I'm going to make them show me that they deserve my money.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, people bought this summer, Jessica, last summer, on the strength of the playoff finish, notwithstanding the fact that we whimpered our way to the end of the season. Dave, Richard, I'm looking at the remaining fixtures. You said 5 points. I'm trying to work out, I'm sure they will come, those 5 points, but let's just look at the next 3, which leaves 4 to go. Charlton Athletic away under Nathan Jones. Not going to be easy. Sheffield United on Easter Monday under Chris Wilder. I know they got beat by Showbiz team Wrexham. And then QPR away the following Saturday lunchtime, I think it is, who demolished Portsmouth 6-0. 6-1, and then I think you then into the final four. We talked last week about hopefully winning 4 of the last 8 to give some hope, but it could get worse from here over the next 7 games, couldn't it?
Absolutely. So my prediction, please don't buy lottery tickets on the basis of my predictions, but Charlton away, at best a draw, at best. I could see us losing at home to Sheffield United. QPR, draw. And then I think we go on a Norwich City home draw. Southampton, we lose away. Birmingham City, I think we lose that one. And Stoke, draw.
So wait, Richard. Earlier you said 5 points.
That's
where
4.
are those 5 points coming from? Please tell me where that, because I've looked at this. How I see it, Charlton.
I know.
We know they're going to be restrictive. You're hoping for a draw. I personally think we're going to lose.
I've got rose-tinted spectacles on. I've got they're rose-coloured.
I'm going to put my depressed sunglasses on right now.
All right.
So Charlton, it's hard to see us getting anything. Sheffield United, you know what's going to happen. Bristol City Airways up for 3. They'll find a way. QPR aways can often be a tricky one for us to go to. Norwich are in a real rich vein of form. Southampton are doing very, very well. Our best option right now seems to be Birmingham, because that's going to be the essentially, hopefully, nothing to play for game. I struggle to see how we're going to get above 3 points in the remaining parts of the fixtures with the side that we have, how we are playing, how everything works. It's quite a depressing time, and I have to be honest, as fans and myself, I can't wait for summer, but the players don't get that right. They need to show much more than they've been showing.
I agree with you, but I've got some good news for you, Dave. I've got some really good news. I've found a 50 goal scorer for us next season, all right? This man has got impeccable character. He's never been sent off. He's available, all right? He's available now. And I think he could do a great job for us as a manager as well. I'm talking about Roy Race. Roy the Rovers is available, Dave. What do you think?
Yeah, he's obviously your hero. I don't know about that. I mean, guys, look, Leicester City, we're 12 points clear of Leicester. So they'd have to win 4 games in a row and us do nothing for them to be a threat. So we ain't going down. I said a couple of weeks ago, last week actually, I said 18th. We're already, Charlton could overtake us if they beat us. Yeah. So if we finish below 19th, Blackburn are on 43 at the moment. If they can gain 8 points on us, that'll be a bloody disgrace. There's no other word to describe it. But look, hey, things could be worse.
David, what would your...
Let me just make this point. We could be Huddersfield Town supporters, because Liam Manning, he went in and he won 3 games in a row. And then the magic of Liam Manning's coaching, I think they then won 2 out of 9. I think they might have won in midweek, but they went down to Plymouth Argyle yesterday, and they were 1-0 up at half-time. Alfie May, good goal scorer for Cheltenham and Birmingham. I think he featured last season. But one of his inspirational team talks at half-time that he was so used to giving here, Plymouth were 2 goals to the good, eventually won 3-1. They were 2 goals to the good within a quarter of an hour of the restart. So if you think things are bad, have pity on the Huddersfield Town fans, because they are not enjoying Manning ball up there at the moment. Dave, you want to make a point, and then we'll wrap.
Just a question for both of you to finish. What would your starting 11 be against Charlton? Like, we've spoken about what Struber needs to do. If you were in charge, what would your 11 be going into the Charlton game?
All right. Well, while Richard's got his head down somewhere. Obviously, Vitek in goal.
I'm referring to my notes.
Vitek in goal without question. I'd do McCrory at right back because that is his best position on the field. Ela, Knight, Pring I put in because I think Borges is useless.
Not Naylor?
I'm going. If you go for a 4, you go McCrory, Ela, Pring, and Naylor. If you go for a 4, but if he's wedded to a 3. Let's go with what you said, though, Dave, with a 4. So McCrory, Ellie, Pring, and Naylor. That's a back 4. Everybody playing in positions they know. In the middle of the park, I would go Randall, Knight, and Bird which on paper is our strongest middle. So that's a 3. And then my front 3, I would go Horvat, Bell, and you have to do Reese because you haven't got any other choices. So that's it. So just to repeat that, McCrory, Ealer, Pring, and the youngster Naylor. Midfield, Randall, Knight, and Bird. And then the front 3, Horvat, Reese, and maybe Sam Bell.
Just to change it slightly, I wouldn't put Pring now. I would put Knight in that back 4 that you've
You'd
mentioned.
still play him out of position. Okay.
I would, and I would say, look, you're captain. You've got to control standards on that pitch. If you're going to go that 4, the 2 in front, you could quite easily put it as, say, Bird and Randall, for example. Even if you're going to go 3 at the back, you could go away. But if we're going to go the 4-2 and then what's in front of it, I want to see Bell playing. You know, I would even go as far to say play Bell and don't play Reese.
Yeah.
Based on what we saw yesterday, I want to see Struber make some statements of intent. If you call out the players like he did, that's step 1. Step 2 is to say, okay, I'm also going to back up my words. Some of you are not worth a place in the side right now. I'm going to play others. So there's an argument, for example, start Urfi over Twine or Horvat. Really show your principles what you won't accept from players.
Okay. Yeah. Richard, what's your lineup final point for today?
I agree with you, but I would like to see Earthy have a place. I'm not sure what's going on with Horvat. I just wonder whether he's carrying an injury. I appreciate we saw the sub in the last game, but yes, he came off again today. Yesterday, sorry. I'd like to see Earthy given some time because that's a player that could do well for us. But I really like the midfield combination that you came up with there, David.
Okay. Right. Well, look, everybody, we're done for our review of West Brom at home. There is an international break next weekend. I think that we will hear about a sporting director sooner rather than later. So it's highly feasible that we might do a sporting director appointment special. This Thursday, interestingly, the speaker at Senior Reds is none other than Sean Gilhespie. With all what's going on in the background, if I was Sean, I'd be brushing up my CV at the moment. It'd be interesting to see whether he does turn up at Senior Reds on Thursday. If he does, I'll be sat with him. And if I don't do the Q&A with him and he wants to talk by himself, I'll certainly be asking him a few questions, which will be interesting.
Please ask him about the process of Bergsorg and when it started and how we got to this point, because many of us...
But I was encouraged by what goes on behind the scenes, by what Richard said about the analysts telling the kids that they know that when West Brom put 2 hands up in the air, it was a signal for a corner to the back post. But obviously Reese was not in the room when that was, because he went AWOL yesterday. I don't know if any of you guys have been watching the Louis Theroux Manosphere with... SJ Tiki Toki. Well, I'm going to give myself a name. I think I should do my own Instagram account. I'm going to call myself DP Wanky Panky. But on that point...
Can I just say one more thing? Just one more thing on a football topic. If anybody hasn't seen the Thierry Henry and Mika Richards interaction this week, go find it on YouTube. It will warm your heart, and it's what football is about sometimes. And it's a must-watch piece of YouTube, a clip, basically.
And if those that are watching on YouTube wonder what hat Dave Tovey is wearing, it doesn't look a little bit like a Leeds United badge, the angle that it's at, but it certainly isn't that. It's a team that's close to both of our hearts. It's Malaga CF, down on the south coast of Spain, got a good win away yesterday. They're looking on course for a playoff finish. Looks like Racing Santander will take the top spot in the Spanish Segunda division. But everybody who's watched, hope you've enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed doing it. It'll be up on Spotify, etc. When I've had my breakfast. Richard, good to have you on again. And Dave, good to have you on. I might ask if you could host the Charlton podcast and relieve some of my pain of having to try and get some joy out of what we're talking about. But everybody, have a good week and have a good international break. But I think we'll probably be having a